Hello, it's Tim Spector here of the ZOE COVID Study, giving you the update for the 9th of June. And unfortunately, it's not all good news this week. We're seeing a number of new cases around 10,000 a day. That's symptomatic ones, not including asymptomatic. And this means rates have pretty much doubled since last week. We have an overall UK-wide R value of 1.3, which means cases are rising exponentially. And again, when we look across the maps of the country, we see that most of these cases are in the northwest of England and a lot of Scotland. But we're also seeing worrying increases in places like London that has low levels at present, but a fast increasing R value of 1.8, which means we're probably going to be seeing major increases in numbers in the next week there. Now, let's remind ourselves that this is currently still an epidemic of the young and the unvaccinated. The main increases we've been seeing in the last week are in this 20 to 29-year-old age group, and most cases are still under 40 years old. Cases in the 50 to 59-year-olds have risen slightly in the last couple of weeks, but this is generally in people who've only had one shot of the vaccine. Now, the epidemiology modelers have been predicting that if cases continue to go up like this, there definitely will be some excess deaths, predicting up to about 40 a day, which is obviously much smaller than it was at the peak, but nevertheless important. And of course, the other worry is an increase in the number of people with long COVID symptoms. And that's something that everyone needs to worry about, whatever their age. If we remind ourselves that most of these infections are occurring in unvaccinated people, we can see from this graph that clearly shows the increases are in that unvaccinated younger group. And we're only seeing slight increases in the vaccinated group, and virtually all of those are in the single vaccinated group, not the double vaccinated group. So there is still good protection from double vaccination. We're not seeing as much protection as we were early in the year from the single vaccination, which is every reason to get that second one done quickly. Now, so the UK really now does have a problem, and we will probably be seeing in a week us at 20,000 cases, and by the time the previous lockdown announcement on the 21st of June, we could be well in excess of that number, and we have to take that into consideration. And we've overtaken the United States, Canada, Germany, Italy, and we're on our way to overtaking France and Spain and these other countries that we've been worried about visiting. And so in a way it might be us protecting them to keep those travel rules in place. Now, what about the Delta variant? The one that used to be called the Indian variant, because that's where it was first detected. The data shows that actually it's much more transmissible than many experts, including myself, thought at the time. The latest estimates suggesting that it has an R0 of around 6, which is about twice as transmissible as the original variant, which means that one person will on average infect 6 others in normal non-lockdown conditions, which is really very infectious. This is a very sticky virus, and it's explaining in a way why it's done so much damage in a short time, despite the lack of individuals to actually attack. And if you are double vaccinated, there's some reduction, we think, in protection, but it's only very minor. And so your risk is still at least 5 to 10-fold less if you've been double vaccinated. And we know from our data from the ZOE app that if you get it, you're going to get a much milder, shorter duration version, make it highly unlikely you're going to go to hospital. So that is a really good reason to get that double shot. But it's also a reason to not be complacent if you've just had that first shot. And maybe if you're suffering from some comorbid conditions, other diseases, asthma, being overweight, etc., then maybe see if you can get that earlier. Now, COVID is also acting differently now. It's more like a bad cold in this younger population, and people don't realise that, and that hasn't come across in any of the government information. And this means that people might think they've just got some sort of seasonal cold, and they still go out to parties and they might spread it around to 6 other people. We think this is fueling a lot of the problem. So what's really important to realise is that since the start of May, we've been looking at the top symptoms in all the app users, and they're not the same as they were. So the number one symptom is headache, and then followed by sore throat, runny nose, and fever. Okay, so all those are not the old classic symptoms. And number 5 is cough. It's rarer, and we don't even see loss of smell coming into the top 10 anymore. This variant seems to be working slightly differently. So I think the message here is that if you're young, you're going to get milder symptoms anyway. It might just feel like a bad cold or some funny off feeling, but do stay at home and do get a test. And the best ones to get quickly are a lateral flow test, which you can get from the nearest pharmacy, and you can repeat that daily. If it's positive, get a PCR test to be sure, but treat it as if you have got COVID. And I think this is really important to reduce the transmission of this virus, particularly in the young, by people acting sensibly. So if you feel unwell, just stay at home for a few days until it passes. And how can you help us? Well, everyone knows some younger people who are getting vaccinated or in this particular high-risk group. Get them to log on the app. We really do need their information so we can get the most up-to-date information all around the country, and also getting them to log their vaccines and their side effects. That'd be a really valuable thing for you to do to help the whole country. And everybody's continuing to log their data is incredibly valuable for all this work to continue. So it's been fantastic. So keep it up. Do remember to like and subscribe on this site, and push the notification bell if you want to know when the next video is coming up as soon as it goes live. And that's it for me. So it's going to get worse before it gets better, but keep logging and stay safe.